And here we are, the wrestle-off. And we're underway. Wrestle-off at 60 kilograms, Coleman Scott and Shawn Bunch. Earlier today, Coleman Scott took care of Reese Humphrey in a best 2 out of 3 periods, winning the first and the third both time by tie-breaking leg clinches to earn the right to face Shawn Bunch here for the final wrestle-off. Jeff, this will be a best 2 out of 3 matches, so 2 out of 3 periods. The winner of 2 of those for the first time, that wrestler will represent the United States at the Games in London. That's correct. Each period is like a mini match, and the person that wins 2 of the 3 periods wins the match, and there's going to be 3 matches if needed in order to determine that Olympian. Now Bunch in the red singlet, 2-time All-America at Edinburgh in Pennsylvania. And the reason we're having the wrestle-off, until recently, the United States not qualified at this weight. So Bunch skipped qualifying, went to the Olympic qualifier in China, finished 3rd, and was able to secure the spot for the United States. So he got the bye here to face the winner of Humphrey and Scott. And it was Zeke Jones, the national coach, who put the emphasis on international wins that determines who would get and sit in the #1 spot, waiting for everyone else to wrestle off to get to him. Bunch qualified the weight. He proved himself internationally, thus he had the right to be the #1 guy waiting. About 30 seconds left in this opening of 3 2-minute periods. And so far you see Scott able to clear. Grappling, Bunch trying to counter. And no scoring here, under 20 seconds to go in period #1. Scott has done some nice level changes. He's the one that looks like he's trying to set up a little bit more than Bunch. But Bunch is, oh, there was an opportunity. He got to the ankle but was unable to finish. And Lady Luck will be involved. Red chooses first now. He'll draw out of the bag of color. And that person gets to choose the leg in which he will attack. And it's blue, Coleman Scott. Now, Coleman Scott is living right. So far on the day, 3 times he's been involved in a draw of the color, and all 3 times it's come up blue, his coat. That's it. Living right. So he'll have the opportunity to pick a leg here, put 30 seconds on the clock. If Scott can score, he'll win the period. If he doesn't score, or if Bunch is able to score or hang on, the period goes to Shawn Bunch. Yeah, Coleman needs to score. That was a false start, and that wasn't. Bunch able to take his man down to get a point for the takedown and secure it. Yep, Scott got that. Now Coleman Scott doing what's needed to be done to get the W, but a long way to go still to secure that final spot for the United States in London. Yeah, that's kind of a feel-out period. Both were kind of looking to see what they can do on their feet. Now I think with Bunch down a period, you'll see Shawn come back a little bit more aggressive. One thing that you know Coleman Scott has practiced hard, and that is if you get to the leg clinch, you better score when you're there, because odds favor the guy getting the leg. And again, he's got the right combination. He's hot and he's lucky. He was the Olympic trials champion, won the Freestyle World Cup as well. And everything seems to be falling in line so far for Coleman Scott, 26-year-old, originally from Waynesburg, Pennsylvania, about 60 miles outside of Pittsburgh. Now makes his home in Stillwater, Oklahoma, former Cowboy, national champion. And Shawn Bunch lives Leavenworth, Kansas. And again, his great success at Edinburgh in Pennsylvania. So 2 guys with Keystone State ties meeting here in New York City for the right to go to London. Scott doing a lot of feigning, changing of levels, and this is to off-balance Bunch. If you will, fake him out. We call it setting him up. You try to disturb the stance, take him out of his defensive stance, make him react and anticipate where he'll be in that reaction. That might be the toughest thing to do in wrestling. Once you get in on a good double, everybody knows how to finish, but it's getting to the good double or the good single that will determine who wins the match. Coleman Scott
try to do something he's never done, and that's beat Shawn Bunch. He said, it's been close a few times. I've seen the mistakes I've made. Just need to take advantage of the opportunities. Opportunity there.
And Shawn Bunch gets the push out. Coleman Scott went under, realized he couldn't get to the leg, didn't want to get trapped underneath, backed out, and Bunch took advantage of it. Bunch, very explosive. You saw him push Scott nearly half the mat in order to knock him out of bounds.
So Bunch with the upper hand, under 30 seconds to go here in the second period. First match in the best of three.
Scott will keep this hold. He'll try to bleed time. And Bunch doing a nice job of circling back in bounds. Once again, he'll stay in this position, just try to neutralize Scott. And he gets it done.
It'll work. Shawn Bunch responding. And even at a period apiece. We'll go to the third to decide round one. You look at Coleman Scott, his college coach, the legend John Smith there, as you see Shawn Bunch getting attended to and his training staff.
Eric Guerrero, Kenny Monday an Olympic champion in his own right. What a corner to have coaching you.
Now Bunch understands what it's like to come from behind at that Olympic qualifier. He lost in the third round to a Korean wrestler, but won 3 straight bouts in wrestlebacks to grab third, the final qualifying spot, and ensure that the U.S. would have a participant in that weight class, 60 kilograms, 132 pounds, in London. Says it was a big relief going halfway around the world to earn the spot, not necessarily for himself, but for his country.
Oh, he was doing it for the country. There was no guarantee just because he did it. He's on the Olympic team, so he did it for the country. And it was the last qualifier, really, to be able to qualify it. And the U.S. has more qualifiers than any other country, and that sets the U.S. up for a good performance.
Scott able to finish the single. And the Cowboy with a big move.
A little bit of a headbutt there.
See Scott trying to gather himself.
But that was a beautiful single leg by Coleman Scott. He knew what he wanted. He got to the leg. He got elbow deep, so he's able to hang on, put the power behind it, and able to finish. And Shawn Bunch doing some ramming. Everything on the line here. You get physical as well. Turn it into a battle of wills.
A caution there against Shawn Bunch. And the corner for Coleman Scott wanting a penalty point, none coming. Still a 1-0 lead here in the third period, tied at 1 period apiece. Scott trying to score again, and Bunch in denial mode for the moment.
Unlike our folk style wrestling, you don't want to continue to pile on points. The more you risk going underneath somebody like this, the more bad things that can happen to you. Nothing yet.
And Scott able to get things done. They're going to try to review that right on the edge of the mat.
And there's a challenge brick thrown out there. They're going to review this. The officials will gather. They'll look at the videotape. And at the end of that, they will have a vote. And we'll see what the officials determine. Now, one important factor. If Bunch, who threw his corner, threw out the challenge brick, if he does not win the challenge, he loses a penalty point as well. So Scott would pick up another point there.
But down 3-0 here in this third period, it's probably worth the risk.
I think it was worth the risk for Bunch. It was a close situation, and I think they're ready. We'll find out now what the officials decide. They'll go one at a time and put up points.
Officials will decide. Where Scott puts up 2.
And they concur with the original call. So Coleman up, and now an additional point for the penalty for losing the challenge. Bunch down 4-0.
So a big lead here for Coleman Scott, trying to secure this first match victory in the third period. Again, a best of 3 matches between the two. So Bunch essentially going for the home run.
And that will do it.
That's it.
He touched him. He touched him, and then he landed, and so the official can make that call.
It counts as a three-point throw, and that's enough to stop the match at that point. Technical fall for Coleman Scott, and he wins the first best-of-3 match. He's halfway home here against Shawn Bunch towards an Olympic berth in the games in London.